It starts with yourself and as local as you can get as possible to gain that momentum and to start changing those things. It's kind of naive to think that you can just put a presidential candidate up when the rest of the world is in their silos, is in their bubbles, and they don't know anything about Islam or whatever have you. I'm going to put a Muslim in the leadership, the highest leadership position. It's not going to really work that way, but you can create a tipping point and you can create momentum that leads to that tipping point,
Yeah.
and that starts from the bottom up.
You think America could ever be a, f- a nation ran by Muslims? Welcome back to the Harry Man podcast, Harry Man Talks. We're here with a renowned guest, Nasif Majid. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum assalam.
Good to see you. Yeah, that's my alter ego, you could say. Um, for those who know me, my name is Hadis. It means the guardian protector in Arabic. What does your name mean, Nasif?
It means somebody who is just or gives just measure.
Just measure.
Yes.
How old are you again?
I am 32 years old.
Mashallah. And born and raised in Charlotte.
Born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina, East Side.
Mashallah. So that's kind of where I wanted to start. For the audience that does, I like to start it this way: is kind of about your upbringing, your childhood years, middle school, high school. What was it like? Like, what were you as a kid?
Well, I started off elementary school um, right down the street from my house. It's my neighborhood school, neighborhood elementary school, Briarwood Academy, and went all of my elementary school there. But when it came to middle school, we were put in a private middle school, which was an Islamic school called CIS, Charlotte Society of Islam,
Does that still
Charlotte
exist?
Islamic Society. No, CIS was lasted for about 2 years or so, maybe more than that before I came. But by my second year in middle school, it was terminated and combined with what is now the MEC Center, Mass. It was Mass then, Muslim Association Society, and there was their school called Al Huda, and so our schools combined, and I went to eighth grade there, and then
Okay.
high school was a magnet school called Philip O'Berry, which is on the west side of Charlotte, right down the
Okay.
street from Harding.
What's a magnet school? I don't remember.
A magnet school is somewhere where you don't have to, it doesn't have to be a home school,
Mm.
and so you can apply to get in, and if your application gets accepted, then you get in. It was a STEM school, so
Okay.
they did technology and engineering as kind of like extracurricular courses
So you
that you
kind of
could
get picked
focus
like
in.
as from a lottery.
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay.
You apply, I guess. I don't know if it's it's kind of probably just a lottery, or
Mm.
was a lottery at that time, but um, you make an application and you get in, I guess.
Mm. So what were you like in those middle school, high school years? Were you like always the stoic or like
No, we
yeah.
were
You don't
middle
have to
school
go in
was
detail.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, middle school was funny. You're around a bunch of subhanallah, like um, you're around a bunch of Muslims,
Mm.
and that's good in a sense. But we're all like kids. We're all immature.
Mm.
We're all playing and laughing. I don't think it was one prayer. I mean, subhanallah, being able to pray through a prayer um, at school is a blessing. But I don't think it was one prayer where we didn't just crack up laughing in
Mm.
sujood or something like that.
I know that feeling.
But it was also beautiful that we had different teachers that we still are around today. Even the students that I went to middle school with, I'm still able to connect with today. As we've all grown up to be and leaders or business owners or whatever have you, we're still in the community, and so those bonds are still there, and it connects us far greater than I think even our parents could have imagined.
You did high school sports, right?
Yes.
Uh, what sports?
I did football and
Football.
track.
Okay.
I wanted to do some other sports, but it's just like having to be picked up and stuff for more sports. I didn't really have rides all the time, so
Mm.
I had to stick to one or two things. Um, And I started football in like kind of middle of middle school, and
Mm.
just like a rec league or whatever, and then from there into high school. Well, scratch that. My freshman year of high school, I did not go to Philipsburg.
Mm.
My freshman year of high school, my dad was trying very hard to get us not in the kind of public school system, I guess, and more so like he wanted us to be in like a charter school kind of
Mm.
platform, and so he put me in this charter school called Crossroads Charter School,
Mm.
which is like right down the street from the masjid or this masjid. Actually, there's a new Muslim school, a new Muslim private school that my middle school teacher, middle school PE teacher, was or is the principal of now. That is right down the street from here at that same building that I went to my ninth grade year of high school.
Oh wow.
They bought the building or they
Mm.
rented it out or they rented it out for their school, I
Mm.
guess. They call it CIS, I think.
CIS. So I was gonna ask you actually about high school sports, like how athletes are kind of have to live a life of discipline.
Yeah.
But I think a better question is your dad is the was one of the imams at is one of the imams at Masjid Ash Shaheed, right?
Hmm.
So what was it like growing up with a dad as an imam, a leader in the community? Like you have siblings, right?
Yes.
How many?
Well, I grew up with one younger brother, and
Mm.
we were just we grew up together. But I have three older brothers
Mm.
and one sister. But we
Okay.
didn't grow up like we we only stayed with our some over the summer, and then my oldest brothers are like they're far older than I was.
Mm.
So when I was a baby, they were like going into college and stuff.
So what was it like growing up in the masjid in the
Oh, it's beautiful. We
yeah.
weren't always here on Sugar Creek. We were at Tuckasegee
Mm.
when I was born, and that's like on the west side of Charlotte. And it was kind of just like one small building
Yeah.
that they were renting out with a gravel parking lot, and that we just drive all the way across the city to. Um, and it's just like it's great memories of community. The
Mm.
community really raised me because my dad was an imam, but more like what took most of his energy and his focus was politics because he was a
Mm.
politician. He was a city councilman for like
Oh.
9 years of my life growing up. So ever since I was a little kid, he would have to go to meetings and things of that nature. Then
Mm.
we'd have to stay with the babysitters, and most of those babysitters were people within the
The
community, right? And
yeah.
so a lot of the people in the community are my mothers, just by
Mm.
way of having raised me as a child and look after.
That's beautiful. That's how it should be. So that's kind of goes into why you're going into politics right now. You're probably influenced by your dad a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the necessary the necessity of it,
Mm.
right? Ideally, you just want society to be perfect, but
Mm.
like I said today, like we can't have others putting their interest on us. We have to put our interest on the world because our interest aligns with morality. Our interest
Yeah.
aligns with something that God has given for a moral standard.
Do you think America could ever be a, f- a nation ran by Muslims?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure that the children of the cave or the people of the cave didn't feel like their society could ever be run by Muslims,
Mm.
or that the Quraysh didn't feel like their society would ever be run by Muslims, or the Romans didn't feel like they ever be conquered by the Muslims or overcome by the Muslims, and so on and so forth. Like it's Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's decree is going to come. It's just what side of that wheel are you going to be on? What side of that successful plan are you going to be on? Are you going to
Right.
be an asset, or are you going to be in the way?
Yeah. I think one beautiful thing about Masjid Al Shaheed is it's almost like MCC where it's a lot of reverts come here. So almost every other Jummah you'll see a Shahada,
Mm-hmm.
and it like almost gives you an iman boost
Yeah.
because you see the person's eyes. You know, sometimes they get emotional. They're saying declaration of faith basically.
Yeah, Islam is
Yeah,
the fastest growing religion in Charlotte. It's the fastest growing
yeah,
religion in North Carolina. It's the fastest growing religion in the states and in the world. So, in and with the suppression, with the media suppression of Islam and the hypocrisy or the tropes that they send our way, trying to discourage people from having a positive outlook on Islam. Even with that, people still find the truth. So imagine if we were in more of leadership positions and more of these higher level positions. Imagine how we could just not stop the flow of information towards people and of goodness of what's better.
right. We kind of see how like in UFC and boxing, it's kind of like it's terrible to say because like I don't know the ruling on punching the face or all that, but it's almost a form of dawah because all these big fighters are Muslim and they're winning big fights that have great records, but their character is what drives people to Islam.
And that's
Yeah,
just how it's been forever. Like
yeah,
there's not been this big movement of Islam spreading by the sword. You only see that nowadays from communities that have been oppressed or been taken over by disingenuous people or put in place with coups and things of that nature, just for the powers that be to control society.
that's a big thing I hear from people who try to oppose Islam, like
Yeah.
some Christians or some atheists that Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like Audu Billah, like they say like he was a warmonger, like I don't know, like
Yeah, that's not the case.
yeah,
When they would go to and fight, they fight with morals, with standards that are even the highest of moralities, even in today's society, and establish morality in today's society. It's like you didn't have war criminals, you didn't have war crimes, and
mm,
these world leaders coming and saying that hey, you can't do these certain things or that certain things is unjust or immoral. Islam establishes a moral standard for fighting. They didn't have that
mm,
before the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. Women and children can't get hurt. And so, and even when the Prophet did take over these certain places, it wasn't any forced Islamic conversion. No, either you become a prisoner of war and you gain your freedom by reading and learning and teaching other people how to read the Quran, or you are a women and children or whatever have you, and you're not to be harmed or hurt or whatever have you,
mm,
and you're taken in. And if you're a religious leader as well, you're not allowed to be hurt, and you're allowed to practice your religion freely, right?
yeah.
And so, yeah,
Was one of the treaties, right? In
yes, yes. It was a standard of morality just not to just cause imminent destruction. Like you can't even cause harm to trees or animals.
mm,
Like even the ants have rights over us, and so
spiders.
yeah, spiders as well. And so our prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he establishes this moral standard that much of the world benefits from today,
Yeah.
whether they know it or not. It derives from that.
I want to kind of shift to talking about leadership. Um, kind of going back to like sports. Like I feel like sports teaches you a lot about life, accountability, teamwork, discipline, focus. Do you think that's brought into your current leadership roles?
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, just you know, it's somewhat simulating war, right? Especially football.
Mm,
You gotta hype yourself up. You have to be ready for battle in a sense, but it also like pushes you to the limit and it
mm,
tests your limits, and so you really are tested with how far you can go or how much you can reach, and that mentality really shapes you into someone that can push themselves, that can break the boundaries or whatever that they set for themselves, that know that they're capable of more in some capacity, right?
mm. Yeah, I feel like you do get tests mentally in basketball, football. boxing. Boxing is just literally you and the other guy. So
Yeah.
it's a war within your own mind.
And you also have to
Yeah.
think. You have to be strategic. You have to
Mm.
know how to assess the situation
It's a
and think
chess
on your
game.
toes. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a chess. And the best thinkers are usually the best players.
It's all, it's almost like politics.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I wanted to go into that with, the whole leaders thing. We're seeing with our recent election, with Trump winning,
Hmm.
and we know who runs America, the Big Z,
Hmm.
and both candidates were getting support from the Big Z.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I meant to
So
say that today. I meant to
yeah,
call them the 51st state of America because
right.
that's what they are.
So my question to you is, how do we get the Big Z or Israel out of the U.S.? Like, how do we get their influence out?
Uh, you know, if you asked me a year ago, I would have said something probably completely different.
Mm.
Nowadays, after having more and more knowledge and understanding about what's going on and what's been going on, um, I thought that America was the strongest nation or ran things, but it's become more and more clear that the influence of um, in America is so deeply ingrained
Mm.
over the decades that it's become one and the same. And so the only way to change is to continue to do what you do, protests and activism and whatnot, but also to indoctrinate ourselves into the system
Mm.
and to get into politics and create a moral standard, to shift the moral standard. It's happened before. It'll continue to happen. It's just it has to be consistent and with people that are committed to consistency and patience, because it's not going to be overnight. Zionists have done this for over the spans of decades,
Yeah.
um, and it's evolved in what it has evolved into now by each and every step being taken. And so we have to take the right steps and be
Mm.
committed to that process, knowing that success is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not with us in our immediate future or whatever have you.
So does it start at like the local level of voting or
Yeah.
the presidency or?
Yeah, it starts with yourself and as
Mm.
local as you can get as possible to gain that momentum and to start changing those things. It's kind of naive to think that you can just put a presidential candidate up when the rest of the world is in their silos, is in their bubbles, and they
Mm.
don't know anything about Islam or whatever have you. I'm going to put a Muslim in like into the leadership, the highest leadership position. It's not going to really work that way, but you can create a tipping point and you can create momentum that leads to that tipping point,
Yeah,
and that starts from the bottom up.
it's beautiful. I think that's how the Muslim Ummah really started. Was 300 people, right?
Yeah,
And which battle was it?
battle butter.
Battle of Badr. And now it's 2 billion. That's crazy to think about, subhanallah. But
Yeah.
you've started with a few brothers the Charlotte Muslim Caucus,
Hmm.
which I missed the event. I showed up late, but talk about the Charlotte Muslim Caucus. I saw the website. You had a bunch of candidates that are suggested and the pros and cons of their policies.
Yeah.
Talk about what happened, or the Muslim Caucus, and what happened at the event. Was there like people voicing their difference of opinion? How did it go?
Well, we established the Muslim Caucus. Kind of the first initiation was here in Ash Shaheed in this masjid. There was a meeting amongst a couple of local leaders, and by the end of it, some of the youth that were there came together, including myself, and decided that we need something, or we need to make something out of this meeting. This needs to result into something. This was November of last year.
Mm.
Just contemplating on the war and what's happening and the tragedies and genocide that going on. And so we came up that we need to establish a political presence. And
Mm.
so we need to do it on the most um, beginning level as possible. And that we felt was just a local Muslim caucus, Charlotte Muslim caucus that's nonpartisan, that doesn't care which party you are. We just care about our issues and making sure that we're fighting for our issues and establishing them with our own society, and then spanning out to broader societies once we have that
Yeah.
blueprint.
You had Jill Stein there.
Hmm.
That was great, Subhanallah. Like, people, I was skimming through the group chat, didn't read everything. There's difference of opinion, obviously, but some people were saying Jill Stein is a strategic vote. So can you go into that? Because I'm kind of uneducated on it.
Yeah, well, a lot of people like to push this two-party system on the masses, and the lesser of two evils. I think we went through that when we became when Hillary and Trump was running, or whatever have you. But it's become clear that there is no lesser of two evils. These are two just evil people who have been intentional about killing Muslims throughout office, throughout years and decades, and it's a concerted effort to keep the Muslim ummah at bay, so that there is no uprising, there is no coordination amongst the communities and amongst the nations, and so it's become clear that they're not. They can say that they're good or whatever have you for the world, or say that they are not causing corruption in the land, but it's clear that they are. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about those in the Quran who cause corruption in the land, and they think they say, no, we're just reformers. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, they know what they are. They'll suffer the punishment for it. So they think that, or they say, right, that they're the good guys, are they're reformers, but it's clear, and we have documentation and things of past wars or whatever have you that show it in a clear light. And so when we get to voting, it's our responsibility as Muslims to be a part of the system that we're in, so that we can change it for the better. And the way of doing that is not limiting yourself to these tropes that they throw at you, this fear mongering or whatever have you. There's another option on the table, and if somebody is the best candidate or better than the rest, then you should go with the best option, even if that option is against your own self, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches that in the Quran.
What do you mean, against your own self?
So even if it's against your own interests, even if you have to correct your own self and your bias, even if you would benefit from being silent or from going with the flow
Yeah.
in some way, knowing that you're sticking with morality otherwise. So, for example, when Joseph, alayhi salam, is trapped in a room with the wife of his employer, he could have went with it. He could have not struggled or gone against it, but he did, and it was against his own self,
His
towards
nafs.
yeah, his own self, his nafs, and towards and it led to his punishment and him being in prison, right, for years. It's not no months, or for
Yeah.
years he's in prison, right? But he was secure, and he was fine with the fact that he stayed with his principles, with his
Allah
morality.
was happy with him.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is happy with him, right? It's not, this world is not about, all right, I gotta just do for myself, which our society
Yeah.
teaches us. It's
Or what
more,
other people will think of me.
exactly. It's more about I need to do what's right, no matter what.
Yeah, it's scary to think about, like, even with the social media thing, when you get to a certain level, people will try to slander your name and they'll try to expose you.
Yeah.
But, like, you shouldn't be worried about that. You should be worried about, am I praying? Am I good with Allah? Like, am I doing the right things? Is my character good, you know?
Yeah, we have that cancel culture,
Yeah.
right? And they try real hard, but when you have truth just clearly stands out from falsehood. And so if you understand truth and you understand how to articulate those things, then can't nobody cancel you. They tried to do that to Malcolm X, and he was able to explain clearly and articulate himself to the best of manners. And then they tried to do it to Muhammad Ali, and he's able to just explain away and clearly articulate his points of view to the point where the questioner seems ridiculous in their question, right?
Who are some of your biggest influences outside of your father?
Uh, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Malcolm X, Muhammad Ali, these the slaves who have and my ancestors who have built this country off of their backs and um, their commitment to just doing good or whatever have you, or making the best out of what they have. Those who sacrifice for us to be here, the pioneers who sacrificed and did what they did for us to have what we have today. Those are my inspirations. I like to learn from them. I like to learn from the best of history and then hopefully apply it in a strategic way going forward.
Yeah, I think as men we have to be leaders for our families, for our communities, and then once you go past your community, it's the nation
Yep.
for the ummah. And we can't think emotionally. We have to think, like you said, strategically. So aside from that, what are other characteristics you would say represent a strong leader?
Um, Somebody who's able to connect people, who's able to unify people, and also somebody who's able to hold themselves accountable,
Mm.
right? Somebody who doesn't even want leadership would be the main objection or point. Um, Somebody who is just notified or known as the best choice for leadership, right? Because of their character or because of their sincerity. I think that's what we're
Yeah.
missing in the world today. It's a lot of people just want to be leaders just because of the power that comes with it, but we need people that just want to do good, and hopefully that will put good people into leadership positions by other people recognizing that they need to be there.
Have you ever had someone like correct you and hold you accountable, and it kind of hurt your own ego, but then you had to like check yourself, like maybe they are right. Like,
My brother,
hmm.
I am married.
I was about to say that.
That happens
Yeah,
daily.
women will check you.
Oh yes.
If not your wife, your mother.
Yes, both, but my
Yeah,
wife more, more so.
yeah,
But it's good because if you don't have that, like subhanallah, like you just go into
yeah.
ruins. And I understand how some people can be arrogant, but like your wife should be able to check you when
Mm,
you're not doing what's best, or you're not being your best self, or you're not upholding the standards that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. And that's the beauty of a Muslim marriage or
mm,
relationship, is that you have that other person that to hold you to that standard that you can't even
yeah.
argue with.
Yeah, I think this whole like red pill thing of the macho man and
Hmm.
over masculinity, like women are like powerful.
Yeah.
We have our own separate roles, obviously,
Yeah.
but you look at the
Yeah,
yeah,
no, it's a tactic of shaitan. That's
yeah,
all it is pitting people against each other, against one another.
mm,
And if you buy into it, then you'll just get consumed by it, and you'll
mm,
start to see people in a light that you shouldn't be looking at people in.
mm,
Um, we're supposed to be companions of one another. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made spouses for us to benefit off of one another, to be a shade for one another,
yeah.
protection for one another. So.
Have you ever read any other books, like 48 Laws of Power, or any books?
I get my information from everywhere. Like
Mm,
I have my dad has like conjured up a library for
mm,
decades that I still have all the books of. Like um, I get like information from just there's so many books. I get information from just reading titles of the books. Like it's
oh,
it's yes, I try to immerse myself in whatever it is that I'm talking about, whatever it is that is on my mind, or whatever have you. I try to get the information and the
yeah.
background information for it so that I know what I'm talking about and I can say it with some certainty.
I feel like people are the best books. I know you should read, but
Very
like
nice. Yeah.
you can when you listen to someone's perspective, you're like, oh, I never thought about it in that way, or
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
don't really agree with that, or you know.
Yeah, subhanAllah, like
Mm,
that's the beauty of being Muslim,
mm,
is that you're like surrounded by so many people of different cultures and ethnicities and backgrounds. And so like when you break bread together, which is often, or you talk with one
mm,
another, like you at Jumu'ah together or whatever have you, you spark up a conversation and you hear different perspectives, and it should be like that. You should be
Yeah.
able to have those conversations.
I think a big flaw in my community, in the Pakistani Desi community, is nationalism. Like, I think you were talking about it in the khutbah, like we put the flag over everything when it should be Muslim first.
Yeah.
And that was in the final speech of the Prophet ﷺ too.
Mhm.
But it's like, why are we so obsessed with borders and lines? Like,
The Prophet, peace and
yeah,
blessing be upon him, said that one of the jihads that will stay with my community is nationalism, is tribalism, right? And every community has it. The Arabs, the African Americans, Pakis, um, uh, the Bangladesh, like everybody, every community has that that jihad of staying with what is you're comfortable with.
is it in the African American
Oh
community?
yes,
Yeah.
definitely, yeah. It's always a us and them kind of perception.
Kind of probably comes from Nation of Islam. Yeah.
It comes from just this society, period. It's derived from the nation, but the nation is comes from that society that they were in as well.
Yeah.
It's always this intentional fear mongering of other communities. Like we see how um, uh, Americans, in some instances, have a negative outlook on immigration and immigrants. Oh, they're taking our job or whatever have you. It's like it's constant us versus them.
Yeah.
Everybody that's not you is an alien, right? Until like you're reminded that um, all right, certain people only get this perception. Like if somebody looks like them, then they don't hold them to the same account as they
Yeah.
do other people that don't look like them, right? And so you even have division in that, in who you pick
Yeah.
to be biased about or discriminate against or whatever have you.
You have it in the masjids as well.
In the messages as
Yeah.
well, yes.
But with the goals of the dawah, how do you see that like in America? What more efforts can we make?
By being intentional about everybody that's here in America that comes to America, be intentional about being Muslim first, and being an advocate for Islam. Seeing this nation as your country. Until you do that, we won't be successful
Yeah.
because you always have one foot in and one foot out. We need people to who come into the country to see it as their country. We need people who've been in the country to see it as their country and that they have a vested interest in its prosperity. Without that, then the powers that be will be able to reign free and without opposition, and we'll have chaos continuously, and it'll lead to our oppression. So we have to fight against that by making those continuous commitments to being involved. You can, like people say, oh, I don't know what's going on, or I don't know what's happening. If you really wanted to know what's going on, you can find out.
Yeah.
Like you can, it's all about your intention. It's all about what you value. And so we have to value.
We're obsessed with like DraftKings and all this, and
We have to
yeah.
value it. We have to value being a part of our community, our society, being a part of these decision making processes on a local and molecular level, and then that'll expand to higher levels, inshallah.
And I think you touched on it in the khutbah taqwa.
Yes.
I think a lot of people lack that because in the West we're surrounded with sin. You know, uh, you go here, you see alcohol. You go here, you see weed. You know, you see women dressed in a promiscuous way. How do you? I can ask you this. I know the answer is taqwa, but how do you personally go about um, battling the sin in front of you?
Looking at it for what it is, really examining it, understanding it, not just writing it off, but really taking a good look and kind of what's it called? Taking an interest in understanding how it is people get like this, or why it is that society's like this, why
Yeah.
is this that way, why is that this way. Asking questions, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you answers. Like if
Yeah.
you're sincere in the questions that you ask about what's going on in the world, why do people do this, and then looking at it from afar, stepping back, you'll start to see how ridiculous it is. Like drugs, or for instance, like or alcohol. So many people like getting wrecks
Mm.
abusive relationships. They black out, like they get sick in the morning. They have headaches, and
Yeah.
they like all from just drinking poison.
Mm.
But for what is the good that you get from it worth the potential backlash that can be
Yeah.
from it? And it's examining things in that clear light, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring you towards the truth. Abraham examining the creation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings him towards the truth by seeing the sun sets. I, my Lord
Yeah.
can't set. The moon sets. My Lord can't set, right? The stars go away. My Lord's not the stars. It can't go away.
What was the moment for you when you realized Islam was the truth?
I was like 12 years old. That doesn't
Mm.
mean that I was just like perfect Muslim
Yeah,
growing up.
obviously. Yeah.
But like when I was 12 years old, we were on the way to the masjid, and I felt as though I was thinking to myself, like, all right, is there any possibility whatsoever that I will become anything else other than a Muslim? And I just could not come up with a reason.
Mm.
I just couldn't see it, and so I just felt then that all right, I'll take my shahada. I took my shahada when I was 12,
Mm.
even though I was born Muslim, but it's still like the intention behind it. And so that's
The
when
faith hit your heart.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I think for me it was I was 21 or 22,
mashallah.
and I almost died.
It's always a
Yeah.
life experience that really pushes you.
Yeah, and then I just had to realize that if I died right now, where would I go?
Yeah.
And I was born Muslim,
Hmm.
but I didn't look into why I was Muslim.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was the okay, what what does Christianity have?
Hmm.
There's three gods. That can't be it. Judaism, you have to be born into it.
Hmm.
Atheism doesn't make sense. So
Hmm.
you just come to the truth.
Yeah, I had
Uh,
a couple of similar experiences,
mm,
like where I didn't actually die, but like I had like a very vivid dream in
mm,
which I felt as though like that was it, I died.
mm,
And so it comes like you're questioning like, all right, what am I coming to do Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with?
yeah.
And it kind of reshapes the way you think about your religion.
And to be honest, after you decide it's the truth, it doesn't. You get hit with more tests.
Yeah.
Shaitan attacks more,
Yeah.
and then you're just battling your own self. You're battling Shaitan. It's
Allah says that
yeah.
you think you're going to say you believe and we not test you with a formidable test?
This
SubhanAllah.
is
Uh,
a
every
hell of a
test is
test.
going to be unique to the person,
That is
right?
true. Yeah.
Allah, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what your weakness is. And that's what we have to work on.
So, last couple questions. Ramadan is approaching, about 90 something days, maybe 89. Um, how do you prepare for Ramadan every year? Like,
Uh, I have not been the best at preparing.
mm,
It usually just sneaks up on you. At least not since I've had children. Since I've had a child, it kind of like it just sneaks up on you.
mm,
But usually, how I would prepare was just like to make up my fast from previous years, like closer to Ramadan, or um, I would. I think like one year I tried fasting a little bit before Ramadan just to get myself ready, but it's like getting in that spiritual um, uh, silo
yeah,
of understanding what you're about to go into and getting the best out of it, and good intentions,
yeah.
having good intentions to doing your best, right?
How do you like? How do you embrace hardship?
Um, it depends. Sometimes if it's a hardship that is out of my control, it's very easy to deal with because
Mm.
that's just me personally. If it's out of my control, it's not something that I'm making dua.
You don't overthink it.
Yeah, I don't overthink it. I'm making dua. I'm focusing on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala getting me through this hardship or whatever have you. If it's within my control, I just mad at myself, I guess.
Yeah.
Like really ticked off at myself and try to learn from those mistakes or whatever have you, and not let it lead to even further what's it called, destruction.
Yeah. I had a friend of mine. He told me, cause I have this flaw where I talk down on myself a lot.
Hmm.
He was like, condemnation makes a man weaker.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is merciful. You have your weakness, but it's the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that can bring you out of that, and know that you have, you know, somewhere to go after, or somewhere to look forward to or
Right.
prosper towards after.
If
Yeah.
you, I say this a lot. If you are wake up the next day breathing, alive, fully healthy,
Yeah.
you have the opportunity to change the trajectory of your life.
Yeah,
Uh,
subhanAllah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants respite to the day of judgment. And so, you know, we have our receipts to make up for ourselves or against ourselves. And I think a good sign is that somebody cares, that of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks of them, so much so that they want to even take a step towards.
that feeling of guilt, or
Yes,
yeah.
having the feeling of shame and guilt in a society where people are shameless and there is no shame, or there's shame for being shameful. Like, yeah, it speaks volumes when you want to change, and when you like even have an inkling of consideration when it comes to worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So I ask this question to every guest, um, not wishing death on you, but God forbid you were to pass tonight. We don't want you to die,
Mhm.
uh, but God forbid, we don't know when we're gonna die. It could happen whenever. What would be your final piece of advice to people watching?
Uh, uh, Tomorrow is not promised. Like, your life is not promised. So why not live today, and why not go to sleep very in a good place, in a place where maybe you not be perfect, but you have something, like you've done something, like you committed something, like you have something to show. You have some sincerity in you that to show, and to look forward to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, um, um, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's judgment and the
Yeah.
grave. And so, like, aligning, making sure that when you go to sleep at night, like, at least you've done something, like you made your prayers. Have you like made dua in the day, or like not with any regrets? Like, I mean, you won't be able to do everything, but as long as you have, you know, something, like you've done something. Like, I have some good deeds that I've been stacking up. Like, I have good character I've been working on. Like, or I'm just in the process of working on something. Like, that's
Yeah.
something to look forward to, or to be to feel like you've accomplished.
I just thought of another good question.
Hmm.
You've made it past the gates of Jannah, inshallah.
Hmm.
You're having a dinner. There's 5 people you can choose for your first dinner. I mean, in Jannah you can do whatever, but hypothetically, 5 people. Who do you pick?
I'm having dinner with. They're all gonna be prophets,
Yeah.
or no? I don't know if he's a prophet or not, but the wise man with Moses would be one.
Prophet
Prophet
Moses?
Muhammad, not the wise man that Prophet Moses went to.
Oh, Al Khidr.
Khidr,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. Um, uh, Isa,
It's three.
that's three. I have two more. Suleiman, and I don't know. I want Malcolm
Malcolm
X
X?
to be
Yeah, I
there.
was about to say.
Yeah, I want Malcolm X to be
Yeah.
there. Yeah, it'll just be a dinner of questions.
Inshallah. Yeah, it's crazy to think about that we'll be living in that,
Mhm.
because I mean they say in Islam that this life will feel like a dream or half a day.
SubhanAllah.
It's crazy. It doesn't seem real
Hmm.
when you think about it, but
Yeah,
also when you think about the dream world,
yeah. When you're in the dream
uh,
world, like you're dreaming,
goes
and you
by.
think that it's been a long time,
Yeah,
and you wake up and it's been nothing but a couple
yeah.
seconds, maybe. That's crazy. SubhanAllah, but Allah is the creator of time,
Mm.
so that's what we can expect.
Well, thanks so much, Nasif.
Thank you, Mr.
Yeah,
Harry.
Harry. Um, yeah, we're gonna link Charlotte Muslim Caucus in the description. Check it out, support it. Is there like a any way where they can support it, or?
Yeah, we have a membership coming up. We have the website. We'll put that membership on there. $30 for the year, and so that's like standard amongst Caucus memberships. And we also have open for donations as well. We're not tax deductible, but it's for a good cause. So um, we're content on establishing this future.
And support Masjid Ash Shaheed as well.
Yes, sir.